Alright guys, I got the 2017 Camry back for the front end repair. I've just started, took the radiator support cover off. I've got to file a supplement on this car. The insurance company didn't bother taking this off to look into it, so you can see the damage underneath the absorber here. You can see the rebar is back into the, maybe you can see that, the rebar is back into the brace, and that pushed into the condenser, which I'm sure got the radiator at least a little bit. So I'm going to get the bumper off. I just took this cover off and unbolted the grill from the headlights and this piece here. So I'm just going to get underneath now. I've got it up on stands. I'm going to get the clips out of the bottom of the bumper, pull the whole front fascia off, then the headlights. This headlight's got a chip right there in the corner of it. You can see that. It's chipped out. I didn't estimate that either. I think this one's okay, but with this one taking an impact, I'm going to have to check all the mounts. I was going to replace it anyway because of that damage. Since it's on his insurance, we might as well put a new one in there, since that was part of the accident. It wasn't like that before. I've got the rebar on the way, and I believe the grill. I found a pretty good deal on a new grill that somebody, I guess, had not used. Same exact OEM grill that you get from the dealership. It just wasn't used, so saved about 40–50% on that grill. So those two are on the way. Just went ahead and bought those. But once I get this off, I've got to send them some pictures for a supplement and get them to pay him the difference on what it's actually going to cost. I'm going to get the bumper off, and I'll be back when I got it stripped. Alright, bumper's off. You can see just how bad the center of it is. This thing was probably out here, at least. It's gone in probably a good 6 inches or more. It actually destroyed a connector in here. I'm not sure what that was for, or if it's just an unused connector. This car doesn't have the adaptive cruise control option in it. That might have gone to that. I think it was just a terminal wiring connector with just a cap or something on it, or just a solid connector. The ambient temperature sensor's down here, so I know it's not that. I'm gonna have to figure out what that was. There's not much left of it at all. You can see it back here. I'm gonna try to match that up and see what it was, and try to find that from Toyota. I've got a printout of all their front end connectors, and I'm going to try to match it up to that. May have to take it to the dealer, take a picture and take it to the dealer to see what they can tell me on it. I don't think it was anything that's being used. Nothing's wrong with the car as far as its function, so I think it was just something to house those two pins that weren't being used. We're going as far as I'm going to go till I get some parts. Waiting on this piece right here. It's pretty flimsy, but it's just there to bolt the latch to. I got to find that wiring connector to house that. Went ahead and took the latch off. That's the only way I could get in here to this bolt. I'll leave it there though till I get the new one. Took this intake plenum off. It was right there. Got it out of the way because I'm going to have to take this upper radiator support off to change the radiator in the condenser. Radiator, well, the shroud of the fan is loose. It's not broken, but it's loose. Underneath there's some tabs right in here, and those tabs drop down in a slot down in here on the radiator, and they just popped out. So it's okay, but radiator, when I pull that back, I can see the radiator's bulged, so I do need to replace it. And since this car's only got about 20,000 miles on it, I'm going to drain the coolant into something clean and just reuse it, pour it back through a strainer into the car. There's no reason to just toss it. It's still got plenty of life left, and that's just a wasted expense to replace it with brand new coolant when I could probably get 95% of it back in there. I may have to buy some just to top it off, but it'll just be a waste of coolant to just throw it away. These pieces here are bent. It's rounded, just or rolled in on either side. That's where the headlight and the grill bolt in. Pulled those two in. I got to straighten those up. Can't do that till I get the new bumper and grill, everything up here to fit it. I think I found everything that is damaged. I'm going to pull these baffles off next, just to get those out of the way. And I'm going to leave this piece here, but once I get this piece off, this brace, the wiring harness will swing out with it. It'll just stay over here. I'll have that out of the way. Really the main thing is going to be just changing the radiator and AC, getting all that recharged, The rest of it's just going to be bolting parts on and make sure everything fits. And all I have to paint is the hood. I don't know if I showed you the hood. I may have showed you the last time I had the car. But it's got a dent right there on that lip. And over here it's a little worse. So I'm going to have to straighten that up. And I'll actually have to refinish the inside lip of the hood. And I'll probably just tape it along this edge, just with a back mask. But it's through the seam sealer, so what I'll have to do is, I may end up taking the hood off, I don't know yet, but what I'll have to do is just cut the seam sealer right here and just shave it off with a razor blade all the way across and stop it there, and I'll just replace that portion of the seam sealer so it's nice and continuous again, and it won't look like it's ever been done. If it was all the way across, just solid, I may just cut into it and just feather some onto the original, but since there's a stopping point here, I'll just replace the whole bead. And they didn't pay to replace the hood anyway. I told them I'd repair it. There's no reason to replace it. It's about $500 or $600 from Toyota, and he's wanting all OEM parts on this. So I am going to get a used bumper rebar. There's no difference in that and a brand new one. It just sits there, never wears out. So I'm going to get that used. I think everything else will be brand new, probably from the local Toyota dealer, but some of it I may end up ordering online. But they can get it about the same price with my discount, and then get it about a day or two, so I don't have to wait as long. I'll be back when I got. Well, I'll wait on some parts and the supplement to get approved. I'm going to go ahead and start on this dent right here and the other one on the other side. It's almost the exact same, just not quite as bad over here on the passenger side. What I'm going to do is, since I need to remove the seam sealer in here, I'm going to go ahead and just hammer this out. I may start with a rubber hammer just to see if I can get it out with that, just so I don't beat it up too bad. But I can do this without the grill in there, because it's just got to get back in line with the rest of the hood. So once I get that straight, then I can leave it there. Then I need to knock this crown out of it. But I'll straighten it up first. I'll probably hold the dolly out here and then knock this edge up to match it and get it flat. And I'll go through here with the razor blade scraper and just cut this off once I've got this flat. Right now I've got this big bump in it, so I can't cut the seam sealer off as easy. I'll wait till I straighten the hood, and I'll come back and just shave this off with a razor knife. And I'll replace that when I go to repaint the inside lip. Alright, we're going to start tapping with the rubber hammer and a dolly on the top side. Normally I'd probably tape this up under here just to keep from chipping the paint, but I'm going to paint in there anyway, so I'm not really worried about it. I'm going to hold the dolly on this sharp crown up here on the top so it stays in. It's got it close. I can't go any further with the rubber hammer. I'm going to have to get something harder to go right there in the center. Get that up. And then I'm going to pull some studs right there in that crease. I'll be back when I get ready to do that. Okay, the outside's pretty much even along the edge. I'm going to go ahead and cut the seam sealer off with this razor knife. I got it started. Just going to shave it all the way off to get to the other side where it stops. I had to go ahead and pull that off because I've got to go in and tap the hood frame down a little bit to get it pushed back out. It actually went through into the frame. You can see right here, the dent was so deep it actually pushed this part of the hood frame in. So I had to get the sealer out of the way. I'm going to go in here and tap all this right here that's high. I'm going to tap it back out towards the skin of the hood. And I've got the bulk of it done. It's level across the edge. Just got to tap a little bit of that crown out. When I go to, I'll put maybe 3 or 4 studs right in here, and I'll tap the crown down whenever I get those pulled out. That way I can get some pressure out this way, and I can tap that in. I did find a little dent right there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Right there. I found that a second ago. It looks like it might have just been a rock or something that just didn't chip the paint. I'll double check the rest of it, because I'll have to fill that whenever I do the front ends here. I think that was the only dent I saw on it when I did the estimate, but I need to wash it and get all the bugs off and make sure I sand through and fill any chips that are in the front. I'm sure there's some. After 23,000 miles, there's at least one. Then I'll prime the front edge of the hood, and then I'll blend the paint. I'll blend the white back maybe 6, 7, 8 inches into the hood, and that way I don't waste any base coat, and then I'll just clear the whole panel. I'm going to go ahead and start tapping the inside. I've got the inside pretty much done. Just needs all the, the paint feathered out, and a little bit of primer over it. And I may run a little bit of filler on the inside edge right there, depending on what it looks like when I get the paint feathered out. But I'll make sure that the outside end of this right in here is nice and smooth, which right now it's not. This is okay in here though. I'll just brush the seam sealer out with a wire wheel. I didn't cut all the way through because I want to come back here and cut it just to make a nice clean end on it, and come back and stop the other one there. The outside, this side needs a couple of studs at least, just to fill that. It's a little bit too low to just fill it. This one over here, I'm just going to fill it, because if I put a stud, I'm going to burn the finish off in there, and it's going to be really difficult. I can probably use this hole right here and this one over here to spray in some cavity wax with a straw, spray it this direction, but I can't really see it, so I'm not 100% sure I'll hit that spot. So I don't want to burn the inside of the finish off, or the inside finish if I can help it. So I'm just going to fill that with fiberglass. But this side, I'm not going to be able to do that. A little bit too deep. I'm going to grind all this off, get down to the bare metal, start pulling, put 2 or 3 studs here, tap that crown out. Then I'll grind the paint out of here, and I'll go get some fiberglass filler. And I'll start doing that first and let that set up, block it out, or maybe just run the DA over it and just take most of it off, and I'll put some regular filler over that. Alright, I can't get the cutoff wheel. I'm in the grinding disc down in the crease. I'm going to go ahead and just brush all the paint out of that. Just clean it up enough to weld some studs in. Alright, that feels good. I'm going to go through and wipe it off with lacquer thinner to get any oil off that may come off my hands. And clean it. I'm going to go through and DA all that with 80 grit and feather the original paint out around it a couple inches. And get some fiberglass ready for it. Alright, those spots have been DA'd around with 80 grit. I wiped them down with wax and grease remover to get anything on it that might have gotten transferred from the rest of the panel from the paint into the repair area. Just blew it off with compressed air. I'm going to get some fiberglass filler mixed up in just a second and put on it. Okay, I've got the fiberglass mix in the can. I'm using Everglass. Not real wild about it. It's good filler, but it doesn't have any fibers that you can see. It's just they tell me it's milled fiberglass, whatever that means. Apparently it's so fine you can't see it, but I don't like how it won't bridge a hole because it doesn't have any fibers in it to do that. But I'm going to use it on things like this where it don't have any holes. And I'll buy some, they got something called Fiber Tech that's got some fibers in it, and some other ones that are kitty hair and tiger hair, I think, that may have some long strand. But we'll try something else after this. We'll go ahead and put some of this on just a second. I actually called Evercoat about this stuff. I thought maybe they forgot to put the fibers in it, because there's absolutely nothing in it that you can see. I'm just used to the other stuff, the Bondo brand, or I think 3M bought them, but it's got fibers you can see, just what they call Bondo glass. This stuff it's got it in there, they assure me, but you can't see it. At least they say it's there. I don't want to throw it away, so I'm going to keep using it on jobs like this where I just want to start the repair with something strong and doesn't shrink as much. I'll come back with the Quantum 1 that I've got in that cartridge. I've got the tape right here underneath the lip of the hood just to catch any squeeze out so it doesn't fall down on the floor or roll underneath the lip. If that's going to be enough, I'll come back with regular filler anyway. Come back with, alright, the fiberglass filler is sanded down. I hit it with the DA to get it started, then I blocked it and came back with the DA after that to get all those straight line scratches out. Now it's slightly low, that's where I want it to be, so I can come back with some regular filler. Now I don't have any filler on any paint. That's kind of the rule. I'll put filler on paint. And this up here, I actually got some PDR tools I've had for a while, and I ran one through this hole right here. And I worked about 95% of that out. I got a couple little pock marks in it, but I can actually block the paint, use the paint there as a kind of a surfacer and block through and get it flat, and I'll just prime that area instead of putting filler in it. That way I won't have any filler there. Went ahead and mixed up the epoxy right after I put this on because it's got to sit for almost an hour. So by the time I get this prepped, which I've got done now, and get the other filler on, get it sanded out, the epoxy will be ready to go. So it's sitting over there on the mixing table, mixed up, waiting on me to get done with the filler. So I'm going to go ahead and put the regular filler on now. Once that's hard, I'll block it out, and I'll go get the epoxy and spray that over just the body work, and I'll come back and put 2K primer over this whole area. Alright, I've got the Evercoat filler on. Been sitting for probably 2 or 3 hours now. Just now got a chance to come back out and block it. I'm going to just break it open with the 80 grit. I'm going to stay within the body filler. I don't want to get out here with any 80 grit. This is already 80. But once I get this broken open with 80, I'm going to go to the block with 80. And just go over it really lightly until I get it flat. I'm going to leave it a little bit high, then I'll finish it off with 180. Then I'll take all the 80 grit that's in the paint, take it out with 180, and I'll come out. I'll probably leave that for right now because I'm going to have to come out and do the 2K tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to do it. It's getting too late. So I'll just get the 80 grit out with 180 around this, and then spray the epoxy over this area just so I can get the metal and Bondo covered. Then I'll come out about 3 or 4 more inches with 400 grit. And then I'll prime that whole area. I want to be able to feather back to where my feather edge stops. I want that to stay within the 400 grit scratch. You don't want to feather back into the 180 because that'll show. So once I get this sanded out, I'll spray the epoxy on it, let it sit tonight, and I won't be back out until tomorrow night, which will be probably another 24 hours or so. And I'll have to scuff the epoxy back with a red pad at least, maybe some 400 grit. And then I'll spray this area, probably the whole front edge of the hood, just because I'll have a dry edge here and a dry edge here, and I don't really want to have to feather 2 edges. I might as well just have one continuous piece here that won't have any ripples at all with any feather edges. I'll just block the whole area where the body work's done, and then I can just run the DA over the front edge. That way it's all the same level. And also I have to prime this area here, so I'll just sand that through with some 400 and shoot a little primer there when I do this. I'm going to go ahead and hit this with the DA, and then I'll start blocking it, and I'll be back when I got it ready to prime. I'm not going to get time tonight to actually put the epoxy on, but I've got it masked off. I'm going to actually put a little bit of a soft edge here. I'm going to lay one over it and roll it back, a piece of tape. That's all prepped. I got the seam sealer brushed out from here over to here where we're going to be putting paint. So I've got to have primer under here, a 2K primer, so that I can put the seam sealer over it. So this is going to have to get epoxy while I'm doing this. So I'll just shoot the inside here, one coat just over the bare steel, and then I'll come back and just spray some epoxy here. Before I do any of that, I'm going to have to go ahead and do the 400 grit prep all across the front of the hood. That way when I get done with the epoxy, I don't have to sand it, and all the sanding does stick into it. So I'm going to have to prep all that first, shoot the epoxy, then the urethane primer. So it'll actually get done all at one time tomorrow. I'll spray the epoxy, let it sit for an hour, and then spray the urethane. But I'm going to have to go ahead and sand out here with 400 first. I was going to spray the epoxy here, then sand all this with 400 tomorrow night when I get out here, but I don't have time to do any of this tonight. I got to go on in. But I'll be back out tomorrow night to do all this. Okay, I've got this hood ready to prime. I actually had to sand out quite a few of the rock chips. You can see some of these were just in the clear. I cut through the clear to get it out, and it ended up going through the base. This was bare metal. I had to shoot some epoxy on that while I had the rest of this out. And there were 2 here that were fairly deep down into the factory E-coat. The rest of it I can just spray 2K urethane over. I got it sanded back to probably in here with 400, just past this paper. I'm going to stay away from this edge. I don't want to put an edge in the primer, but I'm going to probably put the first coat within a couple inches of that paper and just work my way down this way. And I'll put 2 coats over the whole area, and then I'll put a 3rd coat over just the front end here where I'm going to have enough build to block the primer out. But the rest of it, two thick coats will be plenty, just to bridge over the low spots here. When I DA it out flat, it'll go away. I'll be back when I got the primer on it and have it ready to paint. Alright, primer's on. Got a guide coat on it. 3rd coat went about halfway back. I just sprayed it from the front towards the back till I ran out. Had enough to get half a coat. I didn't need 3 coats in the back of the hood anyway. While that's setting up, I'm going to go ahead and I've got it masked off and go ahead and run my bead of seam sealer along here. I won't be able to get it quite as thick as the factory did because what I've got is not a heavy bodied. It's actually the 5887 plastic repair, but I can build it up thick enough that it won't be noticeable. If I build it up as thick as I need it, it'll actually probably run. It kind of self-levels. It needs to be a little bit heavier, but for what I'm doing here, it should be fine. I don't have the other stuff doesn't self-level as much either, so I won't get this slick finish on it, so this will actually look better. I'm just going to run a bead through here and take a spreader and just flatten it out, but I'm going to try to leave some thickness to it. And I've got it set up to where I'll pull this piece of tape off first. And once it's out of the way, I've got 2 edges here lifted up, and I'll be able to pull this off and just cut clean edge all the way over here. I'm going to get it mixed up and ready to go. I actually forgot to run a piece of tape underneath so I don't get it on the hood. I'm going to have to do that real quick. Be right back. Just as I suspected, after I went to get the piece of tape, stuff started just dripping and running everywhere all over the plastic. So I just had to go ahead and wipe it, keep it off the paint as much as possible. I really didn't get much on there. We'll go ahead and pull the tape now. Alright, here it is after the tape's pulled. It's not perfect, but it's going to be good enough for under the hood. At least it won't be noticeable that it's missing or anything. See how it kind of slicks out? It'll give me that finish on the clear too when I hit it with the paint. I got a little bit on the paint there, a little bit right there, and maybe a little here. I can come wipe that off with thinner now that it's not set up. If I let that sit for a while, it'll stick pretty hard. I've already sanded this area, so it'll be hard to get off. So I'm going to stop here and wipe that off and let that set up. That needs to fully cure, and I'll come back and scuff it with a red pad, and then I'll be able to paint in here.